So let's talk about hook baits, washers. In my opinion, I was a big maggot fan before these were invented. You know, myself, Mark Baker, Dave Spence put a lot of time into developing these. Maggots were, cheers mate, have you had a drink? Yeah, nice, beautiful.
Got your caps now.
Maggots was my first choice, maggots or pellets. These are just incredible. You know, and again, it's confidence. 95% of my method feeding I will always use washers. Simply because of the contrast of the colour. That, like what I've said, it really does bring out the contrast in your hook bait that you're using, whether you're using a pink, a yellow or a pink. You've got a hook bait that the fish love. They absolutely love it. A lot of that, again, I'm not an additive person, but spending time with the carp lads really does educate you that there's an additive within these which, when we were testing, was incredible the difference. That if we use the pellet, if we use the washer without the additive on, it would take longer to get a bite, or we wouldn't get a bite. All right, let's catch a fish now. We'll put one on with the additive on, and we get a bite within minutes. It was incredible. So in my head, I think that makes a big difference. Washers, you just can't go wrong with them. But to get your presentation right with washers, you've got to have the right setup. Whether it would be on a commercial or a big open water, it's all dictated by the bayonet that you use for a washer. So I'm using an MWG 12 hook. I'd say from the big fish venues, that's my setup. I love it. I use QM1 sometimes, but I much prefer MWG. So what I'm doing, I'm going to put this on, and I'm going to pass this around so you can have a look in detail at the presentation. Again, if you tie your own hooks, that is a great thing, because attention to detail is really, really important. So I've pushed that in. Now the beauty about it is, in the smaller sizes, in the 5mm, I will use an MWG 16 because it blends well with a 5mm. This is a 7mm, so it blends well with a 12. Again, I'll use a bayonet, but I'll show you with the 18, I actually use an eye hook as my bayonet. So what I do is I snip the end of the hook off, and you'll see it on the hooks. You can buy them from the shop, but I prefer that attention to detail, just that lighter bayonet makes your hook bait work, moves your leg around a little bit more, really does help fish homing onto your bait, but more to the point, because it's more buoyant, it's easier for those fish to suck in. Now what I mean by that is, fish don't always go for your hook bait. So you can imagine that hook bait, and it's got feed around it, you can get a carp coming in for that feed, but because it's a buoyant hook bait, it will naturally be sucked into that mouth. That is why a washer or a neutrally buoyant hook bait is so effective. And then I class it as a coincidence bait. Yes, it's got colour, and if the fish wants to target it, it can, but because of the buoyancy of it, if the carp sucks in from there, that hook bait will go in its mouth. Whereas if it was a heavier bait, it would have to physically go for that hook bait to get it. Does that make sense? Yeah. So buoyancy is so important with carp and reef. So that is my go-to set. By all means, pull the bait out and have a look at the thing. But I'm using a Feederland spike there for my heavy hook bait, so that balances perfectly. Again, it all comes down to get some water at home and test everything that you're doing. If you want to catch more fish, spend some time at home doing your homework.
You've got like Dynamite, I've got like a micro range out now.
Yeah, we've got a 3mm size, yeah.
Do you always believe that the bigger the fish, the bigger the hook bait?
Very good question, no.
Right, okay.
On commercial waters, often, let's say Hallcroft, typical example, you know, I've just qualified for Golden Rod there for the final in March.
Congratulations.
I've caught some big carp in that day, but now you look at the size of the mouths of them, they're that big. I actually use the 5mm washer because they're all wise fish, they're warriors, they've seen it all before. They must be coming into the swim knowing that that hook bait is a bit of a danger. But if it's a bit smaller, it can't help but take it in because it's lighter and it goes into the mouth quicker. So it's not always about size. You know, size is a great thing.
Yeah.
But think about your fishing. If you're on a venue of hard water that's fishing hard, tone everything down and you'll get more bites. That's my opinion.
Would you ever use a pop-up on the feeder with a
Sometimes, but I think when you go up the pop-up route, you're defeating the object of why you want the fish to be there in the first place. Does that make sense? So often, the reason why you're going down that route is because you can't catch on the bottom, and if you can't catch on the bottom, there's something wrong with your presentation.
So what you using the feeder?
Yes.
Yeah.
So think about, right, you know, just how your bait works. Right, has anybody got any questions? No? First time ever.
What decisions do you make to change from ground bait to pellets on the feeder, or the two combined? What makes you do that change?
Exactly the same question as this gentleman asked.
Yeah.
Depth of the water.
That's it.
Depth of the water.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, I've got an island in front of me.
Yeah.
But actually it's 4.5, 5 foot deep next to that island.
Yeah.
If my flatbed feeder hits that surface, gets to the bottom, it's escaping too quick. There's no focal point. And actually, because it's deep, the fish aren't on the bottom, they're travelling at half depth. And if I've got too many particles coming off that feeder on the splash, why do we want to follow the feeder down?
Yeah.
If you use a hybrid and you're compacting that bait in, then you're forcing them to think, hey, what's that? And they swim down and take the bait.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, brilliant.
You can see the difference. If you have a look at that, right, so the hybrid feeder with ground bait in, the ground bait's not even taken off. It's not even made the hook bait visible. Look how dead the mix is. It's retained within that thing. So it's so important, if you're using a hybrid feeder, in my belief, if you are going to add some ground bait to your pellets, add a very, very small amount. Don't put too much ground bait with your pellets, because you get that reaction, which is no good, because the fish can't even see your bait. And all this about coming up and sucking all that bait out. With stocky fish, you get that, little indications that they're feeding. As soon as those fish get wiser, you don't get that, you just get a little indication and then it goes around. That's because they've seen it all before. They know what the feeder is. Yeah?
What that hook length, sorry.
Do you use that oil in the oil in the monsters? Do you put it all in at once?
Listen, that's up to you. I love it. I add some to the ground bait, just a few drops. Again, it's got that additive in it. But just add 1 or 2 drops if you think you want to give it a boost. And I tell you what it works is when the water's more coloured. If you're on a venue where it's more coloured, just add a few drops to those washers. It makes a big difference. Excuse me, it makes a big difference. Okay?
What's your go-to hook length size?
4 inches.
Always 4 inches, yeah?
Depends. If I'm allowed to on a commercial where I'm getting loads of bites, I'll go down to a 3 inch.
Okay, would that be more F1s?
Yeah,
sort of
F1's
fishes?
3 inches, but there's a lot of venues that don't allow you to fish a 3 inch.
Yeah.
White acres, typical example, got to be 4 inches. If I'm on a bream water, let's say Worcester, I use 4.5 inches because I'm on a little bit more movement with my hook bait.
Yeah.
And you can imagine, a carp's mouth, it doesn't often go down to the bottom, it will suck it in from there. And if your hook length's not long enough, it won't go in the mouth, and often you'll get them on the skin lip and pull out of them.
Yeah.
You want that hook to go into the mouth, even if it's a distance away. So I want 4.5 inches for a bigger feeder.
Brilliant.
Yeah? Hope you've enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
Alright.
Cheers, Nick.
Cheers.